Subscribe for more stories and show your support by giving this video a thumbs up. Felix and the Infinite Red Labyrinth, a living room saga. In the sunniest corner of the house, on that fluffy cushion right in front of the window, lay a cat named Felix. Felix was, befitting his name, a snow-white, fluffy, and slightly chubby van cat. One of his eyes was sky blue, and the other was amber yellow. A deep silence reigned in the house that day. His owners, Felix preferred to call them food servers, had gone shopping. The other resident of the house, an old Labrador named Boris, was snoring in front of the fireplace. Boris was sleeping so deeply that his lips puffed out, puff, puff, with every breath. Felix yawned. He yawned so wide that his whiskers almost touched his ears. He was bored. He had explored everything in the house. The dust bunnies under the sofas. Boring. The fish in the aquarium. Too unresponsive. His own tail. He had already caught that in the morning. Felix hung lazily off the cushion. Just then, he noticed a forbidden basket sitting on the coffee table in the corner of the room. This was Mom's knitting basket. Usually, the lid was tightly closed, but today fate was on Felix's side. The lid of the basket had been left slightly ajar. And dangling from that gap was the most provocative thing in the world, a bright red, woolly string with a tiny piece of fuzz at the tip. Felix descended from the cushion with the silence of a ninja. His paws made no sound when they touched the carpet. Although his belly brushed slightly against the floor, this took nothing away from his hunter's nobility. He approached the basket. That red string stood there as if saying, "Come on, pull me." Felix scouted the area first. Boris was still asleep. The environment was secure. He lifted his right paw. Without extending his claws, he touched the string with only those soft paw pats. The string swayed slightly. Felix's pupils dilated instantly, turning pitch black. The wild jungle cat inside him had awakened. He made another move. This time, he hooked his claw and pulled gently. A rattle came from inside the basket, and the thing rolled out. It was a fist-sized, tightly wound, bright red ball of yarn. The ball fell from the coffee table, thud. Then it started rolling on the carpet, scuttle, scuttle, scuttle. Felix froze. Was this thing alive? It was moving. And it was running away from Felix. "You can't escape me, red monster," thought Felix. "This living room is my kingdom." The ball of yarn rolled under the dining table with the slope of the carpet. It left a thin, red trail behind it. Felix stuck his bottom in the air, planted his hind legs firmly on the ground, and made his famous pounce. He dove under the table. The ball had hit a chair leg and changed direction. Felix gave the ball a hard slap with his paw. The ball sped up. This time it shot under the display cabinet. Felix was right behind it. His paws were skidding on the slippery parquet floor, but he didn't give up. He took the corner with a screech. Sound. He thought he had cornered the ball. He pounced on it and bit it. He tasted wool and a hint of lavender. Tastes not too bad, he thought. But as he bit, the ball loosened. As Felix shook his head left and right, the yarn string began to wrap around his neck. Felix pulled back. The string went taut. "Ah, so you are trying to tie me up," said Felix to himself. "You sneaky worm." As a result of his wrestle with the ball, it flew toward the center of the room, right where the sleeping Boris lay. The ball hit Boris's back and stopped there. Boris just twitched his ear but didn't wake up. For Felix, this was like fighting a boss monster. He had to go over Boris to get the ball. Felix approached silently. He climbed onto Boris's massive body. The dog was warm and soft. While on top of Boris, Felix delivered a paw strike to the ball. The ball went airborne, bounced off Boris's nose, and fell to the other side. But in the process, the string got snagged on Boris's ear. Felix chased after the ball. The ball was getting smaller, but the string trailing behind it was getting longer and longer. The situation was now this. One end of the string was in the basket, part of it was on the table leg, part of it was on Boris's ear, and the rest was rolling in the middle of the living room. Things got out of hand after this point. Every time Felix hit the ball, it went in a different direction, and the string wrapped around a new object. First, it tangled around the leg of the TV stand. Then, it got caught on the bottom hem of the curtain. As Felix chased the ball, he was weaving a red spider web inside the living room. At one point, due to the tension of the string, a magazine on the coffee table fell to the floor, smack. Felix jumped in the air with fright. "It's a trap," he thought. "This red monster has traps." But his fear succumbed to his curiosity. The ball on the floor had now shrunk a bit more, down to the size of a walnut. And it was faster. Felix decided to use the tiger claw technique. He climbed to the top of the armchair. He locked his eyes on the ball below. And he jumped. He felt very noble as he glided through the air. But there was one thing he hadn't accounted for, the string wrapped around his back leg. Felix couldn't land on the floor. Or rather, he did land, but not where he wanted. The string braked him in mid-air, and Felix crashed with a poof between the cushions. Felix was angry. This ball was mocking him. He struggled to get free. The more he struggled, the more the string tangled. But somehow, he managed to free his back leg. In that chaos, the ball rolled out the living room door and into the hallway. At the end of the hallway were the stairs. Felix chased after it with a "you can't escape" meow, which sounded more like meow than meow. The ball reached the first step of the stairs. It paused for a moment. Then, click, click, click. It started bouncing down the stairs. Felix was mesmerized. This thing could jump. Felix jumped after it. He swatted the ball at every step. As the ball went down, the string behind it tightened, pulling on the basket upstairs. And finally, the expected happened. The basket upstairs tipped over. The other balls of yarn inside, blue, green, yellow, gained their freedom and started raining down the stairs. This was a dream come true for Felix. The red monster had called its friends. At the bottom of the stairs, in the entryway, a complete riot of colors was taking place. Felix didn't know which one to chase. He bit a blue one, scratched a green one, and kicked the red one with his back foot. Lying on his back, he was tossing and catching the balls with all four paws at once. "I am a champion," he thought. "I defeated them all." The entryway had turned into a work of modern art. The threads were intertwined, knotted, wrapped around the door handle, the coat rack, and even Felix's own tail. Felix could no longer move. His front paws were tangled in the blue string, his back paws in the red string, and his torso in the yellow string. He tried to stand up but fell over. He tried to crawl, but the strings pulled him back. He had turned into a complete woolen mummy. Just then, a sound came from upstairs. Boris had woken up. Boris came to the top of the stairs. He looked down. A piece of red string was still hanging from his ear. Boris looked at Felix, who looked like a wrapped gift package down below. "Woof," he said, in dog language. This meant, "You silly fluffball, what have you done this time?" And he turned around and went back to sleep. Felix was experiencing the sadness of captivity that followed the intoxication of victory. As he lay on the floor, he watched the reflection of the chandelier on the ceiling. He was very tired. He was hungry. And he needed to use the litter box. Maybe if I meow, the strings will untie, he thought. Meow. A very polite attempt. The strings did not untie. Just then, that terrifying yet hopeful metallic sound came from the front door. Jingle jingle. Click. The food servers, Mom and Dad, had arrived. Felix panicked. He needed to hide. But how? He couldn't move even an inch. The door opened. Fresh air and the rustling of grocery bags filled the room. Mom said, "Oh, I'm so tired. I just want to get in and put my feet up." H. This wasn't a scream, more of a gasp of surprise. Dad walked in. "What happened, honey? Did a thief enter?" Whoa! The scene was this: red, blue, and green strings stretched like a laser security system extending from the living room door to the entryway. And right in the middle of this web, lying on his back, belly up, eyes wide open, completely tangled in strings, was a white cat. Felix looked at them and put on his most innocent look. Purr. Translation: While you were gone, these strings attacked me. I only defended myself. Save me, my heroes. Dad started laughing. He laughed so hard he dropped the bags on the floor. Look at that, Dad said. He's not a cat, he's turned into a knitted sweater. Mom frowned at first. All my wool, she said. But then she couldn't resist Felix's helpless and goofy state. She started smiling too. "Oh Felix, oh," Mom said. "I was knitting that cardigan for your dad, not for you." It took them exactly 20 minutes to untangle them. Dad wanted to bring scissors, but Mom said, "Don't. I can save those strings." Felix waited patiently. With every knot untied, he promised himself, "I will never touch anything red again." Of course, this was a lie. Finally, when the last string was untied, Felix regained his freedom. He shook himself off immediately. He fluffed up his fur. He started walking with a proud air, as if he wasn't the one lying on the floor like a packaged salami just moments ago. He rubbed against their legs in gratitude, and asked for some food. That evening, the living room was tidied up. The balls of yarn were tightly wound and this time put away in a locked cabinet. Felix wiped his food bowl clean. Now he was back on his cushion in front of the window. The sun had set, and the street lamps were on outside. Felix was grooming himself. He was tired. He had fought a great war. Boris came over and curled up on the other end of the cushion. Felix licked Boris's ear. There was still a tiny piece of red fuzz left on Boris's ear. Felix closed his eyes. In his dream, he saw a red ball of yarn as big as a mountain. And Felix was chasing it as a giant tiger. In real life, the strings might have been locked in the cabinet, but in the realm of dreams, the hunt continued. Felix's whiskers twitched in his sleep. And a peaceful silence began to reign in the house, until the next mischief. The end.